Welcome back to Send Him Off. I'm sat here modeling my official Send Him Off hoodie,
He's
which
caved.
you can buy from our website
bought the merch, guys.
www.sendhimoff.com. That's the plug-in done. My name is Sam, and joining me as always is my ever-present podcasting partner, Alex. How are you doing?
It looks good on you. I will say that. We had a quick chat.
Yeah.
For those of you watching on YouTube, it's worth, if you're listening on Spotify, go over on YouTube and have a look because it does look good.
Just to see me in a hoodie.
It'll look even better on you guys when you buy it. But anyway, like we said, plugging out the way, we are here and we are not alone. We have got Swansea. Well, he is a Swansea City legend, and
he's a Swansea City legend, having made zero appearances for Swansea City. Yes, yeah. Mr Swansea City.
Mr Swansea City to me. He will always be Mr Swansea City. We have got the legend himself, Mr Kev Johns. How are you, sir?
I'm all right. I'm just a fan, I really am just a supporter. And anything I do for the club, I do because I love the club. And I'm a supporter. I'd be there wherever,
Well, from the bottom of our hearts, we all love you as well.
Yeah,
every one of us. But anyway.
Shall we just dive in, Al?
Yes, you all know what it is.
It's what football means to me. We got a guest. We love what football means to me. Get to know people. See what stories they got. We love it. This is where we usually do our quick fire questions, but we're jazzing it up this week
we switched it up
about a half hour ago. So Kev,
it was, wasn't it?
This game is called something old, something new, something borrowed, and something blue. So quickly, I want your favorite old player. Doesn't have to be Swansea. Your favorite newer player from like more modern times. Your favorite ever loan signing, and your saddest moment as a football fan.
All right. My favourite player from the olden days is a guy called Vic Gormesser, and I stand by Vic now at the games at the Liberty Stadium. We both do some match day hosting in the lounges, and as a youngster, I wasn't a great footballer. I just loved the game of football. I played full back, I played right back, and Vic was the left back for Swansea City. He played for Manchester City. He had a great footballing career, and was at the Swans. And my most proudest moment is lining up in Neath in a charity match alongside Vic. I was right back, he was left back. And that probably is one of my proudest personal moments ever. My favourite modern player, I guess I love Truns. I love Truns because he is Swansea City Football Club. He moved down here from Wrexham. Brian Flynn brought him down to the Vetch, and he kind of put us well and truly on the map. Now, don't get me wrong, everybody knew Swansea City we'd been, Tosh had taken us to the top division, and if we had a top 6 finish in our first season in the first division, so everybody knew. But he put us onto Sky Sports, with his tricks and his and everything, and he is Swansea City, and he does things that nobody ever knows about, and he was a great player. I remember us getting battered at Cheltenham, and Trundle second half he turned the game around and won the game for us. He's one of the best. Loan signings, my goodness, I'm hoping that's yet to be written. I'm hoping that some of the current loan signings we have will do a massive job for Swansea City. And I think my worst moment was I don't know, when we lost the playoff final to Northampton at the old Wembley Stadium, which you're all too young to remember. And we were 0-0, and they had a free kick in the last couple of minutes. And I don't know why, but the ref ordered the free kick to be taken again, and they took it from a different place, and they scored. And we missed out on promotion that year. Obviously, the Brentford game a couple of weeks ago at Wembley, I hated that. I hate losing. I hate the club losing. I just do. I hate us losing.
Well, I was there at the Brentford game, and I can remember I've never cheered so loud. So then when we saw you walk out, and you got us all going, and honestly, it erupted. It was beautiful. Obviously, the score didn't, it didn't go the way we wanted it to, but yeah.
I was miserable that day because my dislike of Brentford Football Club is well documented on this podcast. I don't know why, Kev, but I just don't like them. So that day was not a good day for me.
Do you know, I went to see him years ago when we were in one of the lower divisions. I think they beat us 3-1, 4-1, or whatever. And the fans are horrible. And they missed out on promotion so many times. They had a great result against Arsenal, who doesn't have a good result against Arsenal nowadays.
Yeah,
but, they are a local. The only thing I admire about them is they are a local football club. You know, those fans could be supporting so many other big clubs. They're not that far from Chelsea. They're not that far from Fulham and Queens Park Rangers. But they've stuck with Brentford all the way up through the division. So I suppose we should admire them for that. But I don't like them, and I don't think they played well that day either. You know,
you'd be taking my place now, Kev. Honestly, because you and Sam be teaming up. Honestly. But no, I did notice
an anti-Brentford podcast.
I noticed only one slip there, Mr. Johns. You called it the Liberty Stadium and not the Swansea.com. You did, yes.
I'm terrified of doing that because in the first season we were at the Liberty, I called it the Vetch. I did do that.
No, honestly, to all of us, it'll be the Liberty forever and ever. Honestly, but anyway. I think that covers that. Some fantastic answers and some great stories. Yeah.
Good start.
Excellent start.
Shall I kick us off? I think it's me who goes first.
I think it is you, isn't it?
I think it's me. I've got Sam first written by us, so I know it's
me
who goes first.
Okay,
just trying to finesse it. Kev, what's your earliest football memory?
My earliest football memory, my dad and our next door neighbour, who I call Uncle Jack, taking me down the Vetch. It was the end of a season, and it was a lovely evening. And I think we were playing a friendly game against Newport County. There was a day where there was no automatic relegation from what was Division 4 down into the non-leagues. And Newport were always bottom, and they had to apply for re-election. And what it meant was all the other clubs voted whether they could stay up or go down. And they stayed up. But there was a bit of a fundraising game for them. And it was walking up. The North Bank used to come into the huge area outside, and then you'd walk up this slope, and it was walking up the slope and catching the smell of the turf and catching sight of the pitch. That's what somebody's going to answer that phone, by the way.
I thought it was mine.
I thought it was his.
And that's what I'll never ever forget: the sight of the turf, and even in latter years where I watched the game from the North Bank. That still excited me to see the turf and to smell the pitch as well, And I know, my daughter lives near the West Ham Stadium or the Olympic Stadium where West Ham play. And don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful stadium. It's an impressive stadium, but I couldn't stand that far back from the pitch. I like to be close to the pitch. You like the linesman to hear the compliments that you pass him.
Of course, naturally, of course.
Yes, you do.
Everyone likes to be told they're good at their job, don't they?
Yeah.
I think linesman are no exception.
That was a great decision you made there. So I like that. But that was my first memory of going, and the players, Tony Millett and Ivor Allchurch played in his last game, was the first game I saw. His brother Lenny, both Plasmal boys where I'm from, Mel Nurse, David Gwaither, Brian Evans, Vic Gomersall, they were the guys, and Herbie Williams, a Swansea City legend. They were the guys in that first team that I grew up watching.
Some big names there.
Some huge names, yeah.
I know, some big names there.
Some statues, like. Next question. We've had earliest football memory. What is your biggest high as a footballing fan?
I think it was two things really. As a Swans fan, it was winning that playoff game under Brendan at Wembley, because I always tell the story that when we went 1-0, I was in the press area.
I was there for that game as well. Actually, I remember you doing that game as well. Oh, that was incredible.
You're not allowed in the press area. You're not allowed to wear colours, and you're not allowed to express opinions and show your team. So when we went 1-0 up, I cheered and had a dirty look from a guy who was representing the Football League. When we went 2-0 up, I cheered. I had another dirty look from this guy. When we went 3-0 up, I ran the full length of the press area, high-fived all the boys from BBC Radio Wales, except one. I'm not mentioning his name.
I think we know his name.
Yeah. I didn't high-five. And I kissed Lee Trundle on the lips, and I'm convinced, telling to this day, he likes it. He closed his eyes. And then the guy came over to me. He said, "Sir, if you want to behave like that, then you won't sit in the stand." And I said, "I'm sorry," because I didn't want to get kicked out. because there was a really good buffet for half time. Cheese and all that stuff. I didn't want to miss that. And when we went then 4-2 up, at the end, towards the end of the game, he just gave up on me then. He knew he wanted to shut me up. So that probably was my best memory. My best memory as a Wales fan was being in Bordeaux and sobbing my heart out when the Welsh fans sang the national anthem at the beginning of the game, because I have never heard. I've been to rugby matches. I've been to rugby internationals, big rugby internationals in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, and possibly more recently. But I have never heard the Welsh national anthem sung like the Welsh football fans did that day, and it really was great unity. You know, there were people on the tram going to the game who supported a different club than me, but there was a tremendous unity amongst Welsh fans of all clubs, which this should be. And that Bordeaux game, I went to Toulouse as well when we beat the Russians, and but I will never forget that game in Bordeaux, which was our opening game in 2016. That was very special.
It's interesting you say about like being there in floods of tears. Like football is just it's a funny old game, innit? Because you know when you said about like the Wembley game, the playoff, where I watched the day before it was the day of the Brentford game, actually, the final this year. And I went, you know what? I'm going to put Jack to a King on. I was like, I'm going to do it in the morning, right? And you were back came on, right? And you know, you say something like a little corner in London called Swansea or something like that.
I will never, ever forget
the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. And my mother come into the living room. She was like, "You all right?" I was like, "Oh, Mom, I'm up for this today. I'm up for this." I didn't get tickets. I was like, I was up for it. Obviously, it was a playoff final. But like after that, I was like, "Here we go, boys. Here we go." But it's a funny old game, isn't it? Football, like, you know, you can
I didn't know what I was going to say that day. I really didn't. I hadn't planned it. And like I talk about,
of course, because you said in the DVD, and the speech was one of the best. It was a proper call to arms speech. Right?
Braveheart.
It was Braveheart, but like the whole "This is our day." It's written on the walls of the Swansea.com now. Honestly,
it was just. I made the joke about the song from Glee. That I standing on the touchline. I thought, right, I'll do that as a gag and see if it works. And then I stopped and I looked in and I remembered all the Swans fans who weren't there that day. You know, my dad had been a Swans fan. He had a heart attack and wasn't well enough to go to the game. And Professor David Farmer, who was our club historian and club president, he wasn't there. And Major Reg Pike, had served the club, you know, for years. He'd been assistant or like a personal secretary to John Hollins, and he had passed away. And I remembered all those people who weren't there, and I got a little bit emotional. That was how that happened.
Superb.
Unbelievable. Al, do you want to take a next one? Because it's your question, and I feel like I need to ask my question.
You need to do your special question, do you? Yeah, there we are. Right. What's on your football bucket list?
My football bucket list.
If there's anything left, because you've spoken at Wembley, so come on, twice.
Well, I would love to see the Swans, you know, play at the Nou Camp and the play, because you know when we play the Swansea way, we play like in Barcelona aside. And
well, it was Swansalona a number of years ago.
Kev, I was going to say it might take a while until we get to that level, but I don't think it'd be too long today or at our level. Really, now with everything that's going on there.
They got no money, I know. But I just like to see us play well. You know, I come home from the stadium sometimes, and you know, I think maybe, you know, this it's okay in this division. There's some really good sides. It's the hardest division to get out of. And if you look through this division, I also think the National League, you know, the one under League One, that's another, under League Two, that's another tough one to get out. When you see, you know, last week Wrexham playing Southend. Well, they were, you know, Division 2 clubs in the old days. Wrexham were probably the most successful Welsh club, but I would just like to see us reach our full potential, and we deserve to be back in the Premier League. You know, I think we do. For my dog agrees, and I just think, you know, we deserve to be there. You know, we're a class side. We've got a great stadium. And I know sometimes fans get frustrated, but I know the people who work for the club, you know, in the commercial department, in the offices, they are 100% solid Swansea City fans. And they want the club to do well. They go to away games and get back 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, from places like Bolton and Blackburn. And they love the club. And you do this because you love the club, you know. And I just want to see us do well. I would love to see us back in the Premier League.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah. This doesn't get any better, honestly. What an interview this is, honestly. I'm loving it.
This is my special question. I love this question, Kev. I have to do it every week. Who or what is your football guilty pleasure? And if you had to put anything in Football Room 101 and get rid of it forever, what would you put in there?
My guilty pleasure is Swans away, live on Sky, surrounded by football food, bag of crisps, pork pie with pickle, and Pepsi Max, which is my weakness. And so that is. What would I put in Room 101? There's a few referees that were going there, I can tell you. and Stoke City, I'd put them in.
Yes, Kev.
A proper answer.
And do you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. It's all about banter.
Yeah,
and 100%. I don't understand sometimes why people get so offended about the banter between us and Cardiff City. You know, you're all Welsh, you should support. You know, they don't say that about Sunderland and Newcastle, where they passionately detest each other, you know. The only city where I've not seen any rivalry, I used to live in Liverpool. I was a minister there. And Saturday morning on Derby Day was like special. And you would see a family of 4, 2 of whom would be in blue, 2 would be in red. And they go to the green together. They go in the ground. They shout and scream at each other. And then they'd meet each other outside and they'd go for a Chinese and go home. You know? Football banter. Our bogey side down the vets used to be Peterborough. I used to hate playing Peterborough. And now I hate playing Stoke City. And it's, you know, they support their side, you know. And when they played us this year, I made an announcement before the game about a dear Stoke City fan who had passed away. And the last time we played each other, he'd been there. And that's the family of football.
Yeah.
But it's banter. I don't hate anybody, whatever side they play for, whichever side they support. I don't hate anyone. But people have to accept that there is banter, you know, and we do, you know, banter against each other. And the closer you are to each other, then obviously it's going to get more, there's more rivalry, you know. And when I lived in North Wales, I used to go and watch Colwyn Bay in the North West Counties League. But you won't believe the hatred between Caernarfon and Bangor. They, you know, hello, how's it going? No, they hate each other. Yeah, they hate each other. There would be police at Caernarfon and Bangor. If we drew them in the Welsh Cup or in the early stages of the FA Cup, because we were all playing in English leagues at the time, there would be police there. And they're tiny Welsh towns, tiny North Walian towns, you know. And but it's banter. They go to work with each other. They go home on the same bus.
I suppose it's what you said about Bordeaux, though. You'd just be like, you know, you could have been standing next to a Cardiff fan who, like, on Derby Day, it was you know.
It was a Cardiff fan. He had no teeth, right? He made me look. I sat next to him because he made me look skinny, and he couldn't. He didn't know the words to the national anthem. He was trying to sing. We were singing the anthem on the tram. He didn't have a clue. He'd had a few, right? But what a lovely guy. And it was a pleasure to be in his company. It really was, you know?
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I've got images of my head of Caernarfon and Bangor being like, you know, the Welsh El Clasico. Now you've put that in my head. You can forget, like,
the only image I got in my head is that Cardiff fan without any teeth.
Well, he was a lovely guy, and we were there to support Wales. You know, we were there to support our national team. You know, Oh, but I tell you, don't go anywhere near Canal Run and Bangor
on Derby Day.
That's on my football bucket list now.
Yeah, we're going to have to go up there now.
We might have to. Anyways, moving on. Moving on.
There are people who called ground hoppers who go around different football grounds. They have no allegiance to any of the teams, but they go to as many football grounds as they possibly can. So you can join with the ground hoppers and go to Farrer Road, Bangor on Derby Day when they play.
I might have to one day.
Yeah. So
send him off trip.
Hey, we said at the same time. Look at that, man.
Kev, what does the game mean to you?
It's not life. It's not life or death. It is a game. It is sport, but it's part of our identity, isn't it? Really, wherever you live, it's part of who we are. I'm Swansea boy, and I've only ever supported my local team, and I've got nothing against any of the other teams, your Chelsea's, your Liverpool's, your Everton's, your Man City, your Man United, and who people choose to support. It's a very precious thing deciding what football team I think to give your support to and give your allegiance to. But Swansea City are my team. They were called Swansea Town when I first started watching them. And I remember having for Christmas, boys, you're going to have to Google these things, a Swansea Town duffel bag. And it was like a vinyl duffel bag that you would then take to school. And I still remember the design on it. And I can still remember the smell of the vinyl and the thrill on Christmas morning of getting that and then finding under the stairs just before Christmas my floodlit international version of Sabutio, where teams were in red and teams were in blue, and the Reds always won.
Love it.
The blue team won nothing.
I haven't played that in years.
I never played Sabutio. I never played it. But was it the Reds? Was it Reds against Blues, you said?
Well, yeah, with the box set, you had Reds against Blues, but then you had a wall chart and you could buy teams in any colours. You could buy like Kilmarnock. I'd never heard of it. I heard of it because my wife was brought up not too far from there. But that's how I got to know, and that's how you got to know your football teams, through things like that, and through the results on the television. I mean, now I've got an app on my phone that will tell me the latest score about a game in Kuwait, in Iraq, in Azerbaijan. Why have I got that app? Because it also tells me, all the British results as well. But if you missed the results at quarter to 5, and then the repeat maybe a couple of half an hour later, you'd have to wait until the Sunday newspapers to get the results. Because you didn't have teletext, you didn't have internet, you didn't have Sky Sports. You get the main games, the top games on Match of the Day that night. But you'd have to get all the other results. You'd have to wait for the Sunday newspapers to come out, which in London was the best thing, because they came out at 6 o'clock at the radio stations.
I think that's how football was meant to be. I really do. I love having everything on tap. I got the international scores on my phone now tonight, buzzing through every time someone gets a goal. I love that. I love it. I love having it straight away. Yeah. There's something magical about going, papers are out to 6. Let's see how my team done. It's just magic. Really is. It's magic.
When I lived in London as a student, I would hang around the railway station waiting for the Sunday papers. And same down here, there used to be a sporting edition of the Evening Post that would come out in the city centre about 6 o'clock, 6:30, and you could get the results there. And when we lived in North Wales, it would be either the Manchester Evening News or the Liverpool Echo. You get the sporting edition. But if you missed that, then you'd have to wait until Sunday.
Wow.
Prehistoric, boys. Prehistoric.
That's what it was all about.
And kill the dinosaurs.
I was just... Well, I'm loving this interview. I don't know about you, Sam. I am enjoying every second of this.
I suppose taking it back to this season,
I almost don't want to talk about this. Do you know what I mean? I just want to talk, but we got.
I'm interested though, because we spoke to, you mentioned Lee Trundle earlier. We spoke to him at Trevelyan in Talbot a couple of weeks ago, and we sort of asked him where does he think the Swans are going to finish? So I kind of want to get your prediction, Kev.
He said 10th.
He did. He said mid-table.
Little thank you there for actually listening. So well done to you. Well done.
I saw it. I don't know where we're going to finish, really, because we don't know what we're capable of. I mean, the gaffers, see, I talk like one of the boys. I'm like, the manager's he's only been there a couple of weeks, you know, and we're already into international break. So, you know, he hasn't really had a chance to develop the players he's got. So we could surprise everybody. This time last year, we were all talking mid-table, and look, we ended up in the playoffs. If it is to be mid-table, then it's to be mid-table. The first thing to achieve is enough points to make sure that Swansea City will still be a championship side, next season. But anything's possible. Football is a weird game. You know, you look at a team that's maybe 9 points ahead at the top of the table, and they lose 3 games on the bounce, or draw 1 and lose 2 of the team beneath them, win 3 games on the bounce, and all of a sudden it all changes, and maybe if we're judging it on the games, some of the games we've seen this season where we haven't done particularly well, perhaps, or as well as we'd hoped, then I can understand what Trunz is saying. And Trunz knows his football. He knows it from the inside. He's a clever guy. He knows football at every level. He played for Rill, he played for Wrexham. He played for Bristol City. He played for Neath, for goodness sake, when Neath had a side in the Welsh Premiership. So he's been around a little bit, and now he's at Ammanford. He'll never stop playing football. I remember playing in a charity game, and I was on the line, on the bench, and I shouted, "Jones!" I said, "You're coming off." He went, "What?" I said, "You're coming off." "For who?" I said, "Me." He said, "Get lost." And he just carried on playing football. He refused to come off. But he loves playing football. He's still registered with the pub team back in Liverpool that he played for or he has done in recent years, and he's playing for Ammanford, and he just loves the game of football.
But he loves it as well. We saw him
I was going to say, you said about him, look, he was looking sharp, as sharp as ever, over in Trevelyan. But another thing as well, what a nice guy. What a lovely guy.
I've known families go through tragic circumstances who have got Swansea City connection, and he's just gone to the house, knocked the door, and said, and introduced himself, not assuming they knew who he was. "Hi, my name's Lee Trundle from Swansea City Football Club. I've heard about the tragedy you've been through. I just wanted to come and give my condolences and wish you all the best." And they've invited him in, or maybe they haven't invited him in, but no one's asked him to do that. No one's persuaded him to do that. He's done that of his own volition. And there are certain times of the year I see Lee more than I see my wife. Because and it's a joy. It's a joy. We have a little act, a little banter thing which we've set up when we do Q&As, and he's just one of the best. And he is a lovely, decent human being. Leon Britton, lovely, decent human being. Gary Monk, lovely, decent human being. I love that team. Roberto Martinez, lovely, decent human being.
I agree. That's the team of my childhood.
Yeah, I was going to say that was sort of.
Yeah,
I was want to.
It wasn't, Angel Rangel and the Spanish boys. It wasn't just for the football they played. It was for their character, their kindness, and you hear stories of Ashley Williams just taking the team up to Toys R Us or Smith's Toys now, and just taking a load of kids who just need a little bit of extra support, and they just spent a fortune on them. I've taken a funeral service where Ashley Williams was the bearer of a young boy, and he actually played in front of thousands of footballers, but that's a very nervy thing to do, to be one of 4 people carrying someone's loved one, and he did it. He did it because he did it. And that was a good team.
Yeah, I just love it. That team, I just think epitomizes. I nearly said it when you said about trying to go into the house. I flipping love our club. I love it. I just think there's something about our club that I know obviously we're biased and other clubs will say it about theirs, but there's something about our club. Like you look at that team and you think like Gary Monk, Alan Tate, who else do we mention? Like Leon Britton, Lee Trundle.
Yeah.
None of them are from Swansea.
No,
None of them from Swansea, and yet they're synonymous with the club. They
Yeah.
are, and they epitomize everything the club's about. And I just think it's just special. It's a special little club. Our club is.
in saying that, I'm gutted that we've just lost who I thought was one of our best players to Burnley. You know,
Yeah,
Mr. Roberts.
Connor was just. In fact, we did a little Q&A with him, and looking at that game against Sheffield United, if Connor had been playing, we would have battered them.
Yeah,
because he would have been down the wing, he would have crossed the ball, or he would have, if there was no one there to cross the ball to, he would have just weaved and dodged into himself. And I think it's a big loss. And I think, you know, Burnley, again, a local club, you know, surrounded by other football clubs, you know, so if you support Burnley, you're passionate about Burnley Football Club. I kind of think that he could have done a little better, you know?
Yeah.
we said
thought
this
that as
last
well.
week.
We all said it.
We had this discussion.
And that's no insult to Burnley. And if any Burnley fans get to hear this, I really apologise because I respect you. You know, Sean Dyche is a great manager, with a great, you know, tradition in the game. But Connor was up there with Joe Roden, and all those boys, you know, and he well, you know, you got to take what you take, and he went.
Yeah.
That's my way of saying what I'm saying now.
Yeah. We all feel you though. We all feel it.
We all know what you're saying, Kev.
Yeah.
We all know.
I'm just disappointed. You know,
Yeah.
he'd been at that club, and this period of injury was, I think, the first time in I don't know how many seasons that he hadn't either started the game or been on a bench. But, you know, he'd always been in the squad, and I just think it's a real shame. But I was looking at that Sheffield United game, and he was the key element that we were missing that day, and because they weren't a great side, and I think. But I understand why he's gone. A lot of his mates have gone in recent years. You know, the guys that he grew up playing with in the under-21s and the academy, and you know, he wants, and it's good for Wales as well. The more players we have playing for Premier League teams, it's not always who you're playing for, it's who you're playing against.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
Burnley may not be considered to be one of the top teams in the first division. And again, the Premier League, I say that with greatest respect. But you know, he'll be playing against Liverpool, Man United, Man City. He'll be playing against those players. So that will make him a better player for Wales.
100%.
Do you want to take the last
I was
question?
going to say it's time to wrap it up now.
Yeah.
But finally, just to end it all, what is your favourite footballing memory?
Oh my goodness, my favourite footballing memory is the pies at Kidderminster Harriers.
I love it. I love that answer.
Amazing.
That's the best answer we've ever had on this show.
And they did a stew as well, which was amazing. It was all home cooked, and yeah, the stew and the pies at Kidderminster Harriers. And you know, I don't want to go back. I don't want us to go, you know, down. But you do kind of miss those games. Torquay United used to have a supporters club next door to the ground, and everybody was welcome in the supporters club. So when you went to see Torquay United, Swans Torquay United on a Saturday, you'd go down on a Friday night and you'd stay in a hotel, and then you'd get up Saturday morning, work the pier, play in the amusements, and then you'd go catch a bus to the game and then come back and you'd drive home. But they had a supporters club next door, and it was always great fun because all our supporters would be in there, and that was a great. Cheltenham was another great trip as well, because there was always cheap parking in a field next door to the ground, and it wasn't a long journey home. You know, Oxford, I never understood that because they only had like three ends of the ground. One end.
I've been to Oxford a couple of years ago and I couldn't work it out. Yeah.
No, they'd run out of money and couldn't afford to build a back. But you kind of you miss those. No, I don't miss them. I'm just glad that I experienced them,
Yeah.
I'm glad I experienced the Swans there. There's nothing worse than coming back from Torquay having lost a game. I got coming out to Brentford, thinking, it's not far down the M4 now. And when you get to go on the M4, the slip road is closed and it sends you miles down the M4. You end up driving down a runway at Heathrow Airport, and you eventually get home and you've lost 4-1, or going to Luton and losing 4-1 on a Saturday. That means you love the Swans. And these guys that go with Julian, Hugo, with week in, week out, they travel on those coaches, and I have got greatest respect for them, because you listen on the radio, on the television, or whatever, and you can hear the hymns and arias louder than the home side. So, and little things like this. This is what being a Swans fan is all about, isn't it?
Oh, Kev, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Absolutely
it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you tonight. I feel like, I don't know. I just feel
I'll be watching Jack to a King now until I fall asleep. I know. That's what I'll be doing.
Crying now by 10 o'clock.
Yeah, honestly, I'll be floods of tears.
Yeah, but thank you so much, Kev. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. I'm sure any Swans fan will absolutely love this one. And thank you guys for listening. It's been
it's been a good one. What an interview. What an interview.
Well, we'll be back next week. We don't quite know what we're doing next week yet.
Yeah.
We'll decide. But you can follow us in the meantime on Instagram at Send Him Off Podcast, Twitter at Send Him Off Pod, YouTube, Spotify, Send Him Off. You'll find us. And we've got a new website and blog, sendhimoff.com, and you can find our merch if you want to buy one of these sweet.
Quick little get the old merch again.
So thank you guys. We'll be back next week. Ta-da. See you soon.